So the army has been a sort of a pivotal factor, an external player, but very much an internal player when it came to backing the political party of the day.
Today it was the Bangladesh's chief of army staff who came on. He held a press conference and declared that he's taking full responsibility. He's shouldering the entire responsibility of the violent protests, and at the same time he declared that there would be an interim government. Can you tell us a little bit about the army's history before and their probable role that you can foresee now?
So, Bangladesh Army has had a very influential role since the independence of Bangladesh in 1971. As you know, the pro-Pakistan army, which is the Pakistan army, was defeated by the Mukti Jodhas, or the Bangladesh freedom fighters, who were trained by the Indian Army back in the day.
Right.
And their people also made it to the Bangladesh Army. And but there were still very pro-Pakistan elements who were still there when Sheikh Mujibur Rahman ruled the country between 72 to 75.
Right.
In 75, he was assassinated by one of his, top army commanders, generals, General Ziaur Rahman, who is sort of, said to be the instrumental behind the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who's Hasina's father. And General Ziaur Rahman's wife, Khalida Zia, later took over the mantle of the party called the BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party. So there has been this tension between Sheikh Hasina and Khalida Zia from that time.
Yeah, it's like a head-on rivalry.
Yeah, so people call it Battle of the Two Begums, and Bangladesh Army has been instrumental in time to time. It has taken the lead in either forming the government. So when General Irshad, HM Irshad, he had also taken over power in Bangladesh. That was a period when initially the martial law was introduced, and then Hasina and Khalida Zia, in fact, at one point they also joined hands to bring democracy back to civilian sort of rule rather than, and drove away the army. But soon there were differences between the two, and so the army has been a sort of a pivotal factor, an external player, but very much an internal player when it came to in backing the political party of the day. Over the last 16 and a half years, almost 17 years, Sheikh Hasina had worked with the Bangladesh Army quite closely, especially because it worked with India quite closely, guarding the borders, cracking down on these terror outfits, anti-India outfits, and so the army and Sheikh Hasina's relationship were very strong in the last 16 and a half years. In fact, the current army chief, current top brass of the Bangladesh Army, they have been appointed by her government.
Right.
So they are her loyalists, as they say. But they found themselves in a situation where they couldn't have carried on with the what her party or her government wanted them to do, to crush the dissenting protesters. So they obviously signaled to her that they can't participate in countering the protests by firing at their own countrymen.
Yeah.
So that's where I think there was a break between Sheikh Hasina and the Bangladesh Army in the last 24 hours to 48 hours.
Right.
As the toll went up to about 300 people got killed in the last 4-5 weeks or so, 200, around about 200 till last week of July, and in the last 48 hours to 72 hours, about 100 odd people got killed. So the Bangladesh army has now dissociated itself from Sheikh Hasina's party, government, Awami League. So therefore, they are now trying to play the role of a peacemaker, of a broker, and trying to bring back order into the country.
Correct.
Because of the chaos that we saw because of the protests, and after Sheikh Hasina left the country, she resigned and she left with her family. So we'll have to see in the coming days how Bangladesh army calibrates its role from being appointed by the Sheikh Hasina government to playing the bridge builder,
Right.
to also being the peacemaker and peace builder.
Right.
So that is the key component to watch out for in the next few days.
Right. Shubhajit, apart from the army, who do you see as the key players in the interim government?
Well, as I said, Bangladesh Army Chief had a meeting with leaders from the political parties. So BNP, Jamaat-e-Islami, Bangladesh, Jatiya Party, and other parties were also there. So, and some prominent intellectuals, including a law school professor of Bangladesh, was also there. So these will be the people who would have the leverage and will be the real sort of kingmakers, so to say, to a point who would be part of the government and part of the new interim power structure which will run the country for the time being.
Absolutely.
Before elections take place, and we'll have to see the results.
What do you think will be the first challenge that the army and the so-called interim government faces? The first challenge? Because you mentioned the bloodshed that has been extensive.
So the first task, where he had said that he would want to bring justice to those who were killed and their families, because that was the latest round of protests were asking for justice for the 200 people who were killed in the previous round of protests on quota reform. And so that is obviously has been one of his first statements. So his essentially the role of the army and the interim government will be to restore calm and peace and stability in Bangladesh, because the important thing is Bangladesh is economic powerhouse in the region. It has really punched above its weight in the last 15 years under Sheikh Hasina's rule. It grew at phenomenal growth rate to become richer and per capita income wise than India.
Yeah.
It became a textile hub powerhouse, and in the next couple of years it is going to transition from being a least developed country, in terms of economic sphere, to a developing country, which places it equivalent to India.
Right.
So if they want to have that transition going, and if they want to grow, they need to have peace and stability in the country. So I think that is something will be the first major task and challenge for this new interim government and the Bangladesh army, to restore calm and peace so that their growth is not hampered, because they're still struggling from the from the pandemic, and they have not been able to sort of come back to the same growth rate. So economically, if they want to grow, if they want to get back to shape, and ultimately these students, these youth, they want jobs, they want better quality of life. It's a young, aspirational country. if they want to grow at the rate that they want to, and they want to give the jobs to these young people who are protesting on the streets, they need to have better economic growth, and that can only happen if there is peace and stability in the country.